What up, guys? This is DeBoerium, and today we are looking at WokeTown with what he claims is that tennis proves the Earth never moved. Let's see if that's really the case, or you just lack some physics knowledge.
So I wanted to do a video on the spin of the Earth and how it should wreak havoc on a sport like tennis. Now, some of you may or may not know, I have a pretty extensive tennis background, played for about 25 years now, played in college, played some lower level pro stuff, even as recently as this last year when I traveled to Japan. I did a spoof video on this topic on Facebook a few months ago when I was playing a tournament in Vegas, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth into it right now. So tennis players in general are extremely meticulous. They practice the same shots over and over and over in order to minimize the number of variables they're dealing with when they play their sport. Now, of those variables, they could be things like wind, they could be things like the speed of the court, humidity, altitude, even the brand of the ball will change the way a player may approach the way they prepare for a match. And one of the ways that they do that is by changing the tension of the strings in their racket. So here's Roger Federer talking a little bit about it.
26, 27 kilos, depending on the conditions of the speed of the court, how hot it is.
So it's not uncommon for Roger Federer to get 5, maybe 6 rackets strung after every match in order to have his instrument as precise as he possibly can. Now, one of the things you'll never hear a tennis player talk about having to adjust for is the spin of the Earth. Let me explain. Now, scientists and teachers will tell you that our lack of experience of a sensation of spin is a lot like tossing a ball in a moving car at a constant speed, but that's actually only half of the equation. It's more similar to tossing a ball in a car at a constant speed while going in a continuous circle like the Earth supposedly is, much like this exaggerated example right here.
I let his video play for a while as it provided adequate context to his points, but with that entire car example, you would have to be turning at a rate of 15 degrees every hour to have the same effect. I guarantee you'll be there all day. Even with that, centrifugal force has to be in the opposite direction of gravity, resulting in an even smaller difference. At the equator, the difference is most noticeable with the precise instruments, with a whopping 3% decrease in weight. And this is measurable. Now, depending on your latitude, this number will only get smaller.
So you can obviously see how the ball is affected by circular motion of the car. Now, I'm here on a tennis court, which is supposedly in a circular motion of its own, okay? This court is supposedly traveling about 1,000 miles an hour that way because of the spin of the Earth.
Wow.
Okay? That comes out to almost 1,500 feet per second, or about 1 mile every 4 seconds. Now, that's in the horizontal direction. We're also moving in the vertical direction because of the circular spin of the Earth. Now, curvature math comes out to about 8 inches per mile squared.
Not another 8 inches a mile squared. That's a parabola. It may be accurate at short distances, but not at long ones.
Okay, which means that in 4 seconds, like I talked about, we will have changed 8 inches up or down, depending on your reference point. Now, because of the squared relationship, that comes out to about a half an inch every second. So, standing on this court right here, if the center line was your reference point, that means in 1 second, this side would be a half inch higher, and that side would be a half inch lower. Here's an exaggerated example of what I'm talking about. So here's our tennis court, and as the Earth spins towards the east, you can obviously see how compared to the center of the court, one side goes down and one side goes up.
A classic flat Earth failure to understand frames of reference. So to an observer completely motionless relative to the Earth, viewing it from space, the court would have changed 8 inches. But if you are on that court, relative to you, nothing has changed. You on that court would experience nothing regarding this example you just gave.
Yet I don't experience a difference playing on this side as opposed to that side, or if the court happened to be oriented east-west instead of north-south. And here's the thing, this phenomenon should be different depending on where you're located because the Earth spins at different speeds depending on which latitude you're located on. Yet you don't hear about the Minnesota Golden Gophers tennis team going down and struggling against the Miami Hurricanes because the speed of the Earth is 40% faster in Miami than it is in Minneapolis.
That difference in speed is equivalent to a person sneezing in the crowd and that affecting the tennis ball. There would be around a 1/8 gram difference, that is close to about a 0.5% difference in the weight of the tennis ball, compared to what you just mentioned. Like I said before, a sneeze in the crowd affects the ball greater than the spin of the Earth.
In closing, Rafael Nadal can't go back out on the court until the labels on his water bottles are adjusted the way he likes it. Dominika Cibulkova can tell you where the tennis balls are from based on the way that they smell. These guys are unreal at what they do, and they are as tuned in as any athlete or scientist for that matter into the variables that affect their craft and their environment. And the spin of the Earth simply isn't one of them.
I would have to disagree on that statement, as the variables we are dealing with are so minuscule that a human cannot feel nor account for them. Anyways, just another flat earther doing what they don't know best. Oh yeah, wash your hands.